Hi, this is Jason Stratton and my partner,
Sophia Klopas.
and we are the KlopasStratton team.
And we are going to get into why you should have a buyer's agent and not make the mistake that we normally see when we see people that buy houses on their own.
I consistently am getting phone calls of buyers directly contacting me and wanting to deal directly with the listing agent. And it always just baffles my mind
Absolutely.
why somebody wouldn't want to have their own representation. There's just so many advantages to having a buyer's broker. And getting down to the nitty-gritty, what do you think is the most important reason?
I think the most important reason to have a buyer's broker is having somebody advocating solely on your behalf. So when a buyer contacts a listing agent directly, that listing agent's number one priority is to sell that house at the highest price possible. As a buyer, you probably want the lowest price possible. The only way that can really happen is by somebody advocating on your behalf, and that's what a buyer's broker does versus a listing broker. So that's one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to that, because a buyer's broker is going to be doing the research on the comparables, the area, and what you should be paying for that home.
And a buyer's broker has a different duty altogether. The seller's broker, the listing broker, is trying to not spin, but show the house all of the positive attributes. The buyer's broker comes in and really deep dives into the intricacies of properties and of comps that maybe a buyer won't know. I mean, hiring a buyer's broker who's very familiar with the inventory and can go in and say, sure, they both had the same square footage, but this one, the alley, abutted Halsted or abutted Damon versus being on the opposite side of the street. You're not having all of the food alleys. So it's that deep dive into comps that a broker who represents a buyer will look and will say, hey, listen, this is a big difference having those sorts of attributes, or having an all brick house versus just a brick front with a block background. And those sort of things, I think, is what, not that buyers aren't educated, but that's not their job. This is your broker's job, is what we do for a living full time. And so we have a lot more experience with that.
Piggybacking on that too, to finish off that point, is there's a ton of times where we get phone calls or people we're talking to buyers and they're like, well, what about this house and this house and this house as comps? And I tell you right now, Sophia and I can tell that buyer, well, you know what? We've been in all those homes and I can tell you the difference between that home and this home. And having as much experience as we have and as much volume that we do, being so hyper local and being in the Chicago market and seeing these homes, it's an advantage that we have, that no matter how educated a buyer thinks they are, they have not been in those homes like we have. So Sophia, people going into a house or contacting someone directly always thinks that they're going to be getting a better price because they don't have a buyer's broker. And what they don't understand is that commission has already been negotiated. So that's out the window. So why should a person use a buyer's broker to get the best possible price? How do you look at the comps to establish what value is?
Well, you really have to deep dive as a buyer's broker, which is a different sort of using a different way to comp out properties than you do as a listing agent. As a listing agent, you generally grasp for the highest price, and you also look for the most recent comps as well. So that is a common thread. But when you're looking for comps for a buyer, you're really diving deep into the construction and deep into the materials and deep into how long the other properties were on the market. And you use market time along with the construction, the neighborhood, the street, the little idiosyncrasies that a broker knows that most buyers don't know. There are some buyers that are super educated and they get a lot of that, but this is our full-time job. This is all we do. So being able to really break the comps down in a manner that a buyer won't, we have a lot more access to things. So I think that is really an important part of what we're doing with comps.
I love how you hit that the listing broker is looking for the highest price.
Correct,
And
always.
as a buyer's broker, we're looking for the lowest price. So there is
Yeah.
a conflict there if you're coming to
Representing both
Yes,
sides
absolutely.
of the deal, or actually representing nobody. When
Even
you
worse.
are a dual agent, you represent nobody.
Thank you so much. So Sophia, inventories are low.
So low.
Sell times are sometimes 1 day to 2 days, and buyers are always calling up saying, what do you have? What do you have? This, and this.
Or they'll say, I saw this place, this is before they engaged us, I saw this place, it was on the market for a day and it went under contract so quickly. How does that happen?
So I'm a buyer and I call you up and I say, exactly, how does that happen? What stuff as a buyer's broker do you have that no matter who you are as a buyer, you will not have access to?
Well, so there's a network called TAN, which is Top Agent Network, which is the top 10% of brokers, and we share inventory that way. But I think there's a lot of brokers that are involved in TAN. I think the more important part is the 18 years of real estate experience and relationships that have been built. So a lot of times we'll just put a snippet of a photograph on Instagram, Facebook, or it's social media, anywhere, and we'll get calls and be like, what is that? So we're able to sell a lot of inventory off market. Off market has become a huge segment of the real estate business right now, with inventory so tight.
Yeah, I think these relationships that have been established over these years and people knowing that want to do business with us, that we know how to handle business, is us getting inventory that the general public will never get because that inventory never hits the market. And any business, relationships is all what it's about.
Yeah.
And a buyer's broker that's good is gonna have those relationships. And I think that's something that's really misunderstood when the public is looking for themselves.
The other thing too is, as a broker, you know which agents get listings in certain neighborhoods who are heavy listing brokers. So when you hire
get those
us,
calls.
we get those calls. But we know who to reach out to say, hey, do you have something coming on? I mean, we're getting emails all the time from our broker friends saying, I need first quarter 2021 inventory, or just things like that. So knowing who to turn to find that inventory for your buyer is another part that is so important.
It is, and I remember the last example would be a phone call that I got, I want to say about a month ago, and they said, oh, you found this house in Bucktown that wasn't listed for my friend. I can't find anything. Can I hire you? That's what it's all about, and that's what a buyer's broker is gonna do, especially one that's hyper-local, that's looking in the area that you're looking at.
So real estate, generally speaking, is most people's largest investment. And when you're dealing with someone's money, there's always a lot of emotion involved in the transaction. And I think, that's something really to talk about, and why that's...
Yeah, I think it's a huge portion. I think it's a huge portion of what a buyer's broker does. It's just keeping the ball rolling and keeping everybody on point. I think, like you said, not only is it the largest transaction, the largest purchase for most people, at the same time, it usually goes hand in hand with a life-changing event. So there's enough stuff going on between comparables, movers, maybe a family growing or shrinking,
Right.
relocating.
Moving cross country.
Everything.
Yeah, lots.
And it's emotional, and it's our job to keep focused. There's gonna be a lot of ups and downs in a transaction, and I'm telling you, remaining focused and us remaining calm is what our job is. So you may be all over the board, but we're the calming force behind the transaction that keeps things moving and keeps everything in place. And I actually love that part of the job. To me, it's the funnest part, is just watching that occur and then getting the job done.
Right, and also just sort of letting buyers know, yeah, this part is totally normal, because they've never done this before, where with us it's just like, yeah, this is a normal part of the
Yeah.
process. There's absolutely nothing wrong, and just we'll take care of that. When there's something you need to worry about, we'll let you know.
Absolutely.